This is going to be our next topic, and in this particular topic I'll be talking about modules, packages and namespaces. There was a separate section for namespaces, but I thought that namespace is not that big enough to have a separate section on. So that's why I have included namespaces here, and it is only conceptual and there won't be any hands-on, or there can't be any hands-on on namespaces. Anyway, let's start with modules and packages. The first thing is that what is modules? In the previous hands-on, I had used some commands called import. I had imported something called datetime. I had imported something called random. So what are these? Where these things are coming from? These are actually called modules. When I executed the command import followed by the name of something, I was importing the module datetime. Similarly, when I used random, I was importing the module named random, which are available by default in the Python installation. So you do not need anything extra to import those modules. So first of all, what are modules? So modules are essentially a pre-written program and which can be used in our own code by importing it. And the code that is imported is called a module. So as I said in the previous hands-on, I had imported datetime and I had imported random. So datetime and random are the two modules that were imported. And what are those modules? Those are basically pre-written program that we used in our code. So there would be a separate code datetime.py and there would be a code named random.py which you had imported in our program. So those are also pre-written program which gives us functions, methods, etc. And we can use those in our own code. And that's what we did for random when we created the random integer using randin function. Similarly, we had used datetime.date, datetime.striptime, etc. So those are the methods or functions that are written in datetime module. Anyway, I'll show you that. So this is how we import. Either we import the entire module like 3IAM Python Advanced. I had changed the name. Either we import completely or we can put an alias also. Like in the next one, second import command, I'm importing 3IAM Python Advanced as PA. Now why is this? Because when I import, I can use the short name PA for the methods or to use the methods that are defined in this code 3IAM Python Advanced. Of course, there's a question that comes in where to put the code if it has to be imported. And you can find that information using sys.path variable. This is a variable which is there in sys module. And wherever our code is, we can put that code in the sys path and append it. Wherever I have this code, 3IAM Python advanced.py, if that is in a different path, I'll have to append that path before importing it. Otherwise, Python will not recognize that there's a program with such name, because if the path is not there in syspath. There are three ways that you can import. We can import all the methods, all the classes from, let's say, 3IAM Python Advanced. I can import everything, or I can import individual class like calculate years of experience, or I can import multiple classes or methods like hike generator, calculate years of experience, etc. Importing everything is not a good practice. You should always import the functions or methods or class that are needed in your program, because if you import everything and if the module is pretty big, then your program size would also increase. So that's why this is not a best practice to import everything using the asterisk keyword. Now what are packages? Packages are essentially group of multiple modules together. So if you have, let's say, 3 or 4 modules, you can group them together and put them inside a folder. So grouping is essentially done using folders. If we have folders, then the import is done using dot notation. So what do I mean by that? Let's say I have this folder IAM underscore package, and inside of it I have a folder named modules, and inside of that I have a code named create profile.py. Now let's say I write another program and I have to import create underscore profile.py. So how do you do that? I use the dot notation. So import iam underscore package, which is the first folder, dot modules, which is the second folder, and then create underscore profile, which is actually the module. This module is the name, folder name module. This is not actually a module. So here I have put create underscore profile dot py is actually the module, and that's what I'm importing here. So let's say I have another module calculate underscore hike dot py in iam underscore package folder. So if I'll have to import this, I'll use command like import iam underscore package dot calculate underscore hike. Why calculate underscore hike? There are no other folders because there's no other folder beneath iam underscore package where calculate underscore hike dot py is residing. So it is directly under iam underscore package. That's why I had used the dot notation iam underscore package dot calculate high to import the package or import the module. Typically what happens is that whenever you want to distribute a module, you do it as such using package. Dunder init dunder.py file plays a very important role there. This file is placed inside of the directory whom you want Python to be considered or treated as a package. This is a special Python file to tell Python that the directory should be considered as a package. And typically this file is empty, but we can put code block inside of this file also. Now, if you put a set of instructions or code in this file, then what would happen is these block of codes would be executed whenever you import the package. And this is how we distribute modules as packages in production. So we put this dunder init dunder py file inside of the directories, and most of the times the file would be empty, and then zip it and then distribute it. What I mean by that is, let's say we take the same example. We have iam underscore package, which is the main directory. Under that we have modules directory, and under that we have create underscore profile.py file. Now, whenever we want to distribute these modules as packages, what we do is that we create either empty or code written dunder init dunder.py file inside of the directories. So iam underscore package is a directory. So I have placed dunder init dunder.py file inside of this directory. Now what would happen is that Python would consider this particular directory as a package. Same is the case with modules also. I'll put an empty dunder init dunder.py file inside of the module, and then Python would consider this particular directory as a package also. Of course, along with the init file, we have the create profile.py file also, and they can reside in the same directory. Using this, we're trying to tell Python that consider them as packages and we'll be distributing it in production. You can write some code here in the init file also. Whenever you import this particular package, those set of instructions would be executed automatically. And these are some of the built-in modules that we use a lot actually. And we have already seen random and datetime. We also have time module, OS module, then sys module. OS is for operating system, sys is for Python system variables. Then there is pickle module, which is used to serialize and deserialize in Python. Then pprint is used to print an output in a pretty format. Then profile can be used to find out the memory consumption and other things in a Python code. You have already seen py underscore compile, which is used to pre-compile a Python code. Then there's threading module, which is used to create and run multi-threaded programs in Python. Then you have venv, which is basically virtual environment. We can import this module also. Then there's math module, which gives a lot of mathematical functions. JSON is used to read JSON files, and CSV is used to read CSV files. The module base64 is used to encode a particular string or data in base64 format. URLlib is used to get URL information and work with various HTTP URLs. Argparse is used to parse the arguments in Python. And for example, I run a code and then give -d, then -a, etc. And if we provide values there, then we use argparse module to parse those arguments that we have passed in the program. Then there's underscore thread also, which can be used. And I'll not show you each and every module because otherwise the section might become very big. So I have already shown you random and date time. I'll show you OS and sys module only. So that's all we'll use in this particular hands-on. So let's do some hands-on. We'll write programs to do the following. We'll print the full name and random email ID given the input as first name and last name. Then I'll create another program to add orders and calculate total price of the order, and the input would be multiple order items and their price. Then we'll get order details like order ID, invoice amount, total items, item description, etc. given the order ID. Similarly, we'll get customer details from a lookup table which would contain customer ID, name, address, location, privilege flag, etc. And the input would be customer ID. There's one more program which can be used to add new customers to the lookup table and print the output. We can also add inventory like product ID, description, quantity, price, etc. And the most important part is that we'll have to implement all these functionalities using modules and packages. So what will I do? It seems like there are some relation. So the first one is related to customer, and the fourth one is also related to customer, and the fifth one is also related to customer. So I'll create a customer package and write these codes in that customer folder. And then we have a product information which would be a separate program altogether. And there are two programs that are related to orders. So we'll be creating separate modules for these two and separate packages for these two. And I'll be using all these in only one program. So let's go ahead and do that. But before that, I want to show you the datetime and random module where those things can be found in our Python environment. So what I did was whenever I executed these codes, right, I imported random, I imported datetime, etc. So if you see here, I use this datetime module to import date and datetime. So datetime is the module. Similarly, I imported random also. So I imported this entire random module, and I use this random module to create this customer ID. So random dot rand int to create a random integer. Now the question is where these came from, because I did not mention any folder, I did not mention any package. So the first thing is we'll have to see where Python imports the modules from. Now to see that also we'll have to use a module, and the name of the module is sys. Now let me go ahead and create a new file or Python file, or maybe a new directory, and I'll name the directory as module underscore package. And inside of this directory, I would create a new Python file. And the name of the Python file would be main underscore application, because this is the application that I'll use to import customers module, orders module, and products module as per the hands-on. So let me create this, and now I'll import the sys module, which is basically a module for system variables in Python. Or I can, let's say, write from sys import whatever we have, maybe path, prefix, etc. So these are the things that we can import. But for this, I'll import the entire sys, which is definitely not a best practice, but that's fine. And what I want to print is the sys.path. Now, why do I do that? Because this is the location, and it would be a list, by the way, and it will show us the location where all the files are, or where Python reads the modules from. And I'll do one thing, I'll move this main application to back to the main folder. Yeah, so I have moved the file main underscore application.py from module underscore package directory to 3IAM Python project directory. Now let me print sys.path. So these are the paths. It does not show it properly. So what will I do? So I'll use this for loop to print all the paths one after the other. And these are the paths. This is my local folder. So we have the main folder, the Python project folder. We have library Python 3.12. Then we have Python side packages, which is from the virtual environment. All of these are in virtual environment if you see, and these are actually from the OS module, but in virtual environment everything that we have is in site underscore packages. So let us go ahead and look at site underscore packages, whether you can find random and date time or not. So this is .venv, and here we have library, and here we have site underscore packages, and you have this date time in pendulum folder. So let's see where this pendulum folder is. So this is where pendulum is, and inside of it, this is where datetime.py is. Now if I open this, I should see the datetime class or the methods that we used. For example, we used the today method. So let's search today, and this is what it is. So we use this today class to basically get today's date. Then we used strip time. So this is the method that we used, strp time. So these were the methods that we used. All right, so this is what date time is. And what about randoms? Let's search random also. So I'll click on site packages, and let me close this one. And inside, after clicking site packages, I'll press on the search button and type random. It is there in pyspark.mllib. So do we have any other randoms? Yeah, this is also we have random. So as you can see, this is the random module, and randint should also be there if we search. So this is what randint is, and let me go to the next one, and this is the method that we used. So as you can see, we have to have the modules inside of the syspath. So if it is in syspath, then I can import the module inside of my program. So having said that, let us go ahead and do the coding of all these requirements: print full name and random, and so on and so forth. We'll use this using modules and packages. So I'll show you some of the codes, for example, adding customers, adding inventory, and get customer details from a lookup table. What I'm going to do is that, as I said, that I will put the customer related operations or tasks in one module, and maybe order related tasks in another module, and product or inventory related task in another module. So that's what I have done. I have created a folder named module underscore package, and here inside of it I have created three folders: customers, orders, and products. Inside of customers I have created cust underscore operations for customer operations. Inside of orders I have created order underscore operations, and inside of products I have created product underscore operations. And here I have mentioned the task that I have to do. I have not written any code for product operations. I want you to write the code and complete this entire exercise. So for order operations, what I have done is, so in order operations module, there are two tasks. First is getting the order details, meaning I want to get the information of ID, invoice amount, total items, item description, etc. And then add orders and calculate total price of the order. And the input should be multiple order items and their price. And I have defined a class here. The name of the class is order, and the method is get order details. I'm just getting the order ID, and what am I doing here is that I am printing the value from order table. Now I have defined order table here. So this is a table, this is the lookup table where I have order information stored. Only 6 order information are stored here. Obviously this is not how you do it. Typically in production environment it would be a database. All these data would be stored in a database. In this case, we'll have these orders available only when the program is running. Once the program execution is gone, all these order table would be gone because this will be in program's memory. Anyway, so now I'm passing the order ID, and in this particular method, I'm reading the elements in the order table. Why elements? Because this is a tuple. If the order ID matches the order ID that I have passed, then print all the details that I want from the order table. And if there are no matches, then print that no order found with order ID, etc. And I have kept the method add orders blank also. I want you to complete it. You might find some problem to add orders in the order table, so please go ahead and fix it out. And I have tested this program also individually. For example, order equal to orders. I am initializing the object and then I'm getting the order details by passing the order ID here. So if I test it individually, it should work. And if I run order operations, it's not orders, it's order. So I am initializing the order object, or I'm creating a variable of class order. And now as you can see, it is showing order ID equal to all the values related to order ID 1101, which is 235.67, quantity 3, and description headphones. The first element is the order ID, second element is the price, third is the quantity, and fourth is the description. So this is order operations, and there are two methods that I have created inside of a class. Did I have to create class? Maybe not, but it becomes useful if you create a class and define the methods inside of the class. Similarly, I have created customer operations, and in customer operations, I'm printing the full name. I'm getting the customer details from a lookup table, and the lookup table contains customer ID, name, address, location, and privilege flag. And also I'm adding new customers. Now here I'm not using class, I'm using simple functions. And this is the lookup table. Again, obviously this is something that you will not see in production. In production, the lookup tables or the customer tables would be in databases, but here I'm not discussing database, so that's why I have created a lookup table of type list, and each element is a dictionary. So cust table is of type list because I've started with square bracket and ended with square bracket, and each element is a dictionary because as you can see, these are all curly braces. Now I'm defining this function add customer. Now what it will do, you'll have to pass the first name, last name, address, location flag, and then it would generate the customer ID using the randint function, and it will add a new customer and then it'll append the new customer. And after adding, it will show us all the customers, but only the customer ID, first name and last name. Other details would not be shown. It would also return the customer ID that has been generated. So this is the add customer function. Then I have created another function, and the name is get customer details. Here I'm passing the customer ID. Whenever the customer ID matches the input customer ID that I'm sending, then it would print. Otherwise it will say no customer found with customer ID. Then it will generate full name and email. We'll have to pass the first name and last name, so it will print the full name and the email ID. So these are the three functions in customer operations. I have not defined any methods or any classes. So, and this is the main application, and what will I do here is that I will have to import the modules and use the cust operations, order operations, etc. in this main application. So the first one is that I want to use customer operations because I want to add customer and I want to generate the name and email, and I want to get the customer details also. And we'll have to pass customer ID 100 to 500. If we pass anything else, I'll not get any response, or the response would be no customer found. I'll also add a customer and print the list of the customer. So this is what I'm going to do in the main application. So first I'll use the customer operations or cust operations module. You'll use that get customer details. Now let's say this is an application wherein maybe you are trying to send email notifications to customers. There's a separate service based on certain offer, based on certain discount, etc. Or you want to tell the customer that you have become a privileged customer, etc. To tell a customer that, or to inform the customer, you'll have to get the customer details. I already have another program which gets the customer details. So I'll not write any code to get the customer details because that is already available in cust underscore operations. So I'll just use that particular module. Now what will I do? I can import the entire module like import module underscore package, then dot customers, and then dot the cust operations, and I can mention the name as COP, which is customer operations, and then I can use it. But as I already told you that this is not a good practice. You should only import the methods or functions that you want to use. So what will I do? I'll use the from keyword. So from module underscore package dot customers dot customer operations import get customer details. So I'll just import this one. So now Python is able to find this information because I have put it in the current folder. So if you see, module underscore package is inside of 3iam underscore python underscore project, and we had already seen using the sys.path variable that this particular path is part of sys.path. So if you put any module here, it will be recognized by Python. And that's what you should do. You should create the modules, and if you want to, let's say, distribute this package, you create all of them in a particular folder and send the folder in zip format or whatever to other developers, and they can unzip it and copy the entire folder in their current working directory. Anyway, so now what will I do? I want to get the customer details. Now let me go ahead and look at get customer details. I do not have any documentation, right? So that's why I'll have to read the program, but typically there would be documentation here, meaning that there would be comment saying that you pass the customer ID, the input and output would be a print statement. So here the output is a print statement. I have not done the documentation here, but you should do it. Now what will I do? I will get customer details. I'll just pass 100. If I execute this program, it is saying that ID is 100. Following are the customer details: name Aarti De, location Mumbai, and privileged customer yes. Similarly, I can send it, do it for 200, which is John Wick. Location is Newark and New York, and it's a privileged customer. Now let me send 2000, which is not there, and it says no customer found with customer ID 2000. Of course, this is not how you should send the response. Typically, you should put all of this maybe in a dictionary and then you return that value. That's how you should do it. Instead of printing, maybe what you do is you return all these values in a dictionary. That's how you should do it. But here again, I'm just testing for the hands-on. That's why it is fine. So get customer details is done. Maybe I'll import one or few more functions. I can get generate full name details. So now what will I do is that here I'll have to pass the first name and last name. So let's say the first name is Python and last name is programming. Now if I execute this and I'll comment this one out, it should show me the email ID, full name Python programming. It has capitalized, and is also giving me the email ID python.programming.399@3iam.in. Why 399? Because it's a random integer generator. Now next time if I execute, I'll not get 399, so I'm getting 105. Anyway, so I'm able to use the function. Then I also have add customer. So what will I do is maybe in the next line I'll add one more, import add customer. Now what will I do is I will use this add customer and I'll have to pass multiple arguments. So as you can see, the ID is telling you that what argument do you have to pass. You'll have to pass first name, last name, address, location, and flag. So this is the customer. The first name is Isha, last name is Sen, address is 7 by 10 road, location is Bangalore, and flag is N. Now if I execute this customer would be added in the lookup table, and I'll be able to see the lookup table. So as you can see, this is the customer. These are all the customers. So I have added this Isha Sen also. Of course, if I try to get and execute this program again with 3075, I'll not get anything, because as I said, it is in memory, and as the program execution is done, it has been erased. So you'll not keep the records in memory. Of course, you'll put it in a persistent storage like a database. So that's why in this add customer, I basically showed that the customer has actually been added. Okay, so this is the first one. Then I want to do some order operations also. And in order operations, I have order and then method. So I just send the order ID and then I get the order information. So it is a little different. It is not like module and then we have functions inside of it. So how do I import it? Similarly, from module.package orders order operations import order class. So what am I doing here? I'm importing the order class, and order operations is the name of the module. So this is the name of the program, order underscore operations. I have from this particular module, I'm importing the order class. So what I have to do is that I'll have to basically initialize the object. So I'll have to initialize the object using the order class, and then I can use the method get order details, maybe 2202, and it should give me the output. So this is because I was testing it, it has given me this error. So anyway, let me execute this, and as you can see, order ID 2202 is giving the value. And if I type 2203, it should show me that it does not, the order ID is not there. So I'm initializing the object using order class, and then I'm using the method. So in this particular program, I did not have to write anything at all. Correct. So I just imported the class, and then I'm using the method of the class. And the same thing happened for random also, if you remember. I import the module random, which is basically a class, and inside of it, I use the randint method. So here I use the get order details method. So that's how it works in Python's entirety. You create modules and then you call the modules. Now, as you can see, the main application is so small. We have only 6 line of codes, and all the other codes are there in cust operations and order operations. Also, one more thing, that how do you know that this is how you should use that particular package? Of course, it will be done in the documentation. And if you use AWS Boto 3, which is AWS's Python SDK, you'll see comprehensive documentation that how to use these methods and classes, which anyway we'll see later on, AWS and GCP both. So this is how you use modules and packages. So you create modules, put them in package, and then import them. Remember that you have to use the dot notation. You'll have to go from the top level directory like module underscore package dot customers dot customer operations. So from there we can import the functions, or we can import the class and initialize an object using the class, and then use the method that are defined in the class. Should you use the functions method or the class method? It completely depends on how you have written the module. And as I said, you can use this module in standalone matter also. But how do you do that? I'll talk about it in the next section. So these modules can be accessed individually, and these modules can be accessed from other programs also.